dyspraxia system, and today I want to talk about reading and spelling in regards to dyspraxia. People with dyspraxia can also have difficulty with spelling words in the right way or reading what it says right, a little bit like you can have with dyslexia, only different and less extreme, I guess. I'm sorry, I'm not really used to how to set up the camera right. We've struggled with spelling so much, we still do, but we struggled with it so much that at some point, I think it was in our first year of high school, a teacher said, "Hey, is there a possibility that you have dyslexia?" And we were tested, and we were like at the threshold of getting a dyslexia diagnosis, like right underneath. So I'm not entirely sure how it was, but like that's for right now. Just assume that you would, you could score between like 0 and 100, and you need like 65 to get and higher to get like a dyslexia diagnosis. We would probably be somewhere between 60 and 64 with our score. It's probably not how you test for this, like, but that makes clear just, we almost got dyslexia diagnosis, but we didn't. So we don't have dyslexia, but due to dyspraxia, it does sometimes may come off that way. I'm not trying to like belittle dyslexia in any way. That's our experience with it. And we didn't really understand why. We didn't fully understand why dyspraxia affects it like that. It has partly to do with that we actively need to think of how we write the letters when we're writing it down, so then we don't have that much capacity to also think about which letters we need to write down in which order in order to spell right. There's part of it that's the explanation our parents gave, so that's what we went with. But also on the Dyspraxia Foundation site, I'm gonna read it right now because our iPad is almost out of charge and I can't charge it. So I'm gonna read it and then I'll explain more. On their site, it also says that people with developmental verbal dyspraxia has an impaired speech processing system, which affects their ability to make letters link and to carry out phonological awareness tasks. For example, segmenting, blending, rhythmic, etc., essential for literacy acquisition. Spelling is usually more effective than reading. Is there anything else here that needs to be said? Yeah, exercise can help children with reading and spelling difficulty, but children with dyspraxia may have difficulty with reading and spelling, limited concentration and poor listening skills, and literary use of language may have an effect on reading and spelling ability. A child may read well but not understand some of the concepts in the language. Child may also be reluctant to read aloud because of articulation difficulties or because they lack self-confidence. So as you can see, we do struggle with incarnation of our mouth when reading something out loud, because we both need to read actively and then also need to semi-actively make the sounds with our mouth. We don't have it all that much, but every now and then while reading a bit, it acts up, then we say something wrong. sometimes we just go over it and sometimes we say it again. We'll link the page of the Dyspraxia Foundation that it's on in the description, so you can read it for yourself if you want to. But yeah, basically what they say is our brains cannot link the sounds that we hear with how it's written well. We definitely have that struggle. So necessarily, for example, the way we hear it necessarily does not correlate with how it's written down. I'm pretty sure we always spell that wrong. Wait, let me see. Now that our iPad still has like 4%. I will say how I'm typing it out. So for necessarily, I would go an N, an E, an S, necessarily, E, oh, E, R, I, L, Y, which is, I know is not how you spell it. Necessarily. Oh, necessarily. Yeah, the other, if I really think about it, with like sort of knowing that it's wrong, I would write it Nesesarly. Why is the music outside when we're filming? Thank you for going. And I can see that it's like wrong, but it's close. It like feels like doing it. I remember doing it. We might put on the screen how we would write it. But we have that with more words. We can write it completely different from how it's actually spelled, so much that autocorrect doesn't pick it up. Like Loki wanted to write inevitable. We still don't fully know how to spell it. We really don't know how to spell it still. But Loki wanted to write it down, and they wrote it down so differently that autocorrect had no idea what they were talking about. So in the end, they wrote something else that has similar meaning. But yet we don't know, because the way we hear it, inevitable, how, like, is it phonetically? The way it sounds isn't the way you write it down. And we struggle with that. Also with reading, sometimes we have it less because we know what is there most of the time, but sometimes we read it and then we're like, what is this word? Because we read it in like a wrong way in our head, like the pronunciation would be wrong, and then like our lover or someone, Loki's lover or someone else, will say it the right way and they're like, oh, that makes way more sense. Also, more people struggle, I think, with how you write language. But every time we write a language down, we say in our head like language, because then the way you write it down correlates with how you say it. Yeah, we struggle with this in any language. It's not just English. It's also in Dutch. Dutch is our first language, so like it's not that it's a new language that we need to learn. We have it with any language. But yeah, it is the link between how you pronounce it and how you actually write it down is really difficult for us. Because if we have to write something down, we have to actively think about how we write the letters down, or like where we need to type on the keyboard and stuff like that. So it's a lot that was going on at once in our head that it's just we can't do it all at once. Some parts of it will just suffer parts of the action. So yeah, that's something really difficult, and we sometimes when we bring it up at like university, well, we bring it up at 2 universities. The one we're currently at that we're finishing, because we're stopping that, but we do want to finish at least a class from the first year, and like the university that we're going to, and the first university, we said it to the person going like in charge of all the accommodations for disabled people and stuff like that. We said it to her, and then she was like, well, do you have a dyslexia diagnosis? Like, no, we don't. We almost did, but we don't. But it is due to our dyspraxia. She's like, well, you don't have a dyslexia diagnosis, but don't worry. The teachers don't look at the way you write it down as long as they can understand it. So you won't be graded at spelling, which is nice, but just the way she went about it was like, you don't have dyslexia, so can't do anything about you struggling with spelling, even though you clearly do because you got tested for dyslexia, but whatever. We were condemned with the fact that they don't check for spelling, so it was fine in the end. We haven't had problems with that either. Mostly also due to the fact that it's mostly like calculations that we need to write down on like a test paper, and the rest just reports online. And if it's like a report that you need to write, you can use Word's autocorrect or like look up how you need to spell words. But yeah, no, it's not a good way to go around it, because in a way you do invalidate our struggles. But the funnier thing is, today we talked to a person of our new study, and we did also tweet about this interaction, but we brought it up, like, we have trouble with our spelling, is that a problem? And we will have like a Dutch course and an English course at the study too, but there's a chance we won't have to do them, but maybe we will. We'll have to see about that. If we don't, that's awesome, because then we won't have problems with spelling, probably. Well, like, then it's a problem with like grading tests. We will still have problems with how to spell stuff, but like, I hope you get what I mean. But yeah, no, she was like, oh, well, we have the Dutch course, there you will be graded on spelling because that's part of it, but the teacher will individually see what you struggle with, what your level is, and if your spelling level is low, you'll get extra exercises, and you can even get extra lessons outside of normal classes if your spelling level is really low, because extra practice can help, and the learning the rules in explaining a different way can also help. And it can for some people, but we know the rules. It's not, for us, it's not part of practicing. Extra practice won't help us. One point in high school, we literally wrote the word pregnant recently, like one day or 2 days ago, correctly, like multiple times, I think, for a story we were writing at the time. And then, like, we wrote it wrong on the test. And we were like, oh no, we know how you spell it. Sure, yeah, we do. And then we wrote it wrong on the test. So extra practice won't help us. But she also said, like, yeah, I personally am not a Dutch language teacher, so you won't have that with me as long as I know what you spell, what you wrote down. Grammar, I don't care if you write the grammar wrong, and also with other spelling, I don't really mind as long as I know what you say and it's not super confusing and I have to figure out like really difficultly what you say. But she mostly was talking about grammar, and that's interesting because spelling isn't grammar. Spelling and grammar are two different things. Yes, spelling and grammar are linked. Yes, they can both be difficult. Probably if you have dyslexia, you struggle with both. I don't know. We don't have experience with dyslexia. But we don't struggle with grammar, really. We had to do like multiple grammar tests in high school in like the second to last year of high school. So this was 4th and 5th year. We were like 15 around that time, and other people in class were like 16, 17. We had to get grammar classes and do a grammar exam because apparently the grammar in the class wasn't the level that it was supposed to be. Apparently it was quite bad, but we pretty sure we almost aced the grammar test. We didn't have to spell. We didn't have to think about how to spell except for like the grammar part of it. So we know the rules of grammar. That's not the problem. We know how to do the grammar. The problem is spelling of the actual word itself. And I'm glad she also clarified that won't be a problem. But if she had just put it on the grammar, we would have much of a clear answer. We would still be like, okay, great, grammar is not graded, but what about spelling? You know? I mean, I guess you can put the logic behind the grammar on the rest of the spelling, but if grammar was a problem, I would have asked specifically about grammar. And if you see it from a grammar standpoint, yeah, more practice can help with that. And hearing it explained again can help with that. But whereas grammar is not a problem, you're like, not as much. Like, the one thing we excelled at with languages was grammar. With any language we've learned in high school, problem is how to write the words, and if it's a new language we're learning, with remembering what the words are, not the grammar part. We know the grammar part, so I just find it funny that spelling is linked to grammar, because like, yeah, they are linked, but they're not the same thing. Grammar is a part of spelling, but spelling isn't inherently grammar. I don't know. You probably know what I mean by my ramble. But yeah, no. People with dyspraxia can struggle with spelling too. We've considered maybe getting another look at maybe we're dyslexic or not, but from what we hear other people say about like the word and letters will just go, like they look like they're all moving and stuff. We don't really relate to that experience. I'm not really explaining that the experience that I mean, right? But like, letters don't jumble together for us as much. Yeah, we can read something completely different than what it says. That's only every now and then. So like, in the end, we think it's really due to like our dyspraxia and not being able to link the pronunciations to how you spell it. But yeah, just people with dyslexia aren't the only ones who struggle with reading and writing. That's just the main thing people need to learn. Practice won't make us better at spelling. We won't. It's a question of memory and being able to link pronunciation to spelling. So yeah, no, I hope we won't have to do the Dutch course, the Dutch language course, or the English language course. But we'll have to see about that. We were able to get good grades in high school, so probably won't be that much of a problem, but still. I think we need more practice for spelling. Yeah, I can predict that it won't do any good. If it did, we probably already have done that. It was something we've accepted. We always use autocorrect on our phone, laptop, phone, iPad, and laptop. Did I just say laptop twice? But on our phone, iPad, and laptop, we always use autocorrect. It's just something we've learned to live with. It's not that difficult, luckily, to go around until you need to write something down on paper. Then you can't use autocorrect. But yeah, it's a little bit of like around because of the intake earlier. But it's also something important to learn and know about dyspraxia and not being a struggle for us and probably other people with dyspraxia too. Most people don't really talk about it. They mostly talk about coordination, but they don't say how it affects writing and spelling and stuff. So yeah, dyslexia isn't the only disorder that affects spelling. Dyspraxia is probably also not the only one that does. There are probably more disorders that affect spelling apart from dyspraxia and dyslexia. But you only always hear about dyslexia, so that's why I keep bringing it up. And I'm saying that like people with dyslexia should they struggle too, and then they should also get help. Just saying, they're not the only ones that struggle in this aspect. So yeah, if you have any questions or whatever, leave them down below in the comments. If you want to follow us on social media, it's in the description, both for Twitter and Instagram. We're rarely active on Instagram. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of our videos, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when we upload a new video. We upload every Wednesday. And we'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!